Imagine being humiliated on national television by a powerful senator, then turning the tables in a way that leaves not only your critic, but his closest allies reeling with regret. That is exactly what happened when Ron Wyden tried to tear down Pam Bondi live, only for her to unleash a revelation so explosive it rocked the halls of power and sent Cory Booker spiraling the morning lights of the CNN studio burn hot and unflinching, casting a glare across polished glass, and taut faces America was. Watching as the red tally light blinked alive, the air thickened with anticipation. What was supposed to be a routine segment on anti-corruption in Washington now sat on the edge of combustion. Every seat was filled. Lawmakers, strategists, press, insiders hung on every word. The moderator turned to Senator Ron Wyden with a scripted question, but his eyes betrayed something more calculated. Senator Wyden wasted no time launching into a blistering attack on Bondi, painting her as a shill for billionaires, a defender of broken institutions, accusing her of lacking the moral compass to lead the DOJ. The room fell silent. Even the camera crew froze. Bondi sat 2 chairs away, unblinking, her face a mass of impassive control. Wyden's words cut sharper the more Bondi refused to react, calling her the architect of backroom deals that hollowed out California politics, and warning she would bring that same rot to the national stage. The host tried to interject, asking if Bondi had a response, but she simply looked at him, a single cool glance dismissing the premise entirely. Wyden surged ahead, feeding on his own momentum. The fox in the judge's robe line drew a faint wince from an ethics scholar nearby, and for a moment it seemed the senator might completely own the narrative, yet Bondi never moved, never offered even a twitch of discomfort or outrage. She let the air charge with expectation until it felt like the whole studio was vibrating. The host, desperate to regain control, promised they would return after the break, but it was too late. The cameras captured everything: the smirks, the tension, the Cold War stares, and the clip was already racing across social media. Within minutes, the words "Bondi scandal" trended. Partisan influencers and bots amplified Wyden's talking points, slicing his most damning lines into sound bites. Cable news ran endless loops. Some called today the Attorney General was cornered, others saw it as the old guard overplaying his hand. Outside the studio, Bondi walked to a waiting SUV trailed by aides who scrambled to manage the media frenzy. Her instructions were crisp: let them have their sound bites. We don't play defense with cheap shots. By the time they regrouped at headquarters, the digital wildfire was raging. Twitter and TikTok filled with memes and doctored clips painting Bondi as an embodiment of corruption. Newsrooms churned out hot takes and think pieces. Polls popped up showing America split right down the center. Half wanted her to resign, half saw her as a victim of political theater. Yet Bondi issued no statement, declined interviews, ignored every call to explain herself. Her communications team ran on caffeine, drowning in press requests, threats, leaks, panic. Allies, even governors, hinted they would have to distance themselves if she did not speak soon. But Bondi stayed silent, and in that silence something shifted. A chorus of defenders rose up, lawyers and former prosecutors dissected the attacks, showing how digital forgeries and half-truths were fueling the outrage. They called it trial by meme and warned the public not to let emotion rewrite due process. Editorial pages that had hours before savage Bondi began publishing cautious reversals, asking if perhaps this was all too convenient, too sudden a storm built for algorithms, not accountability. As day bled into night, the nation seemed caught between 2 stories, one a disgraced official brought low by righteous outrage, the other of a smear campaign run with clinical precision. Bondi watched it all from behind closed doors, calm, calculating, already 3 moves ahead, knowing that in Washington perception was power, and the longer she withheld hers, the more the story would twist back toward her favor. Proved stronger than the mob's poison. Yet with every passing hour, the pressure grew heavier. Major donors threatened to cut ties. Staffers whispered about leaks. At least 2 high-profile exposés were being advertised for prime time each, promising revelations darker than the last, and the stakes had become nothing short of existential. This was no longer just about Bondi's job. It was her legacy, her reputation, her entire life's work hanging by a thread. As night fell and the hashtag still burned hot, Pam Bondi remained silent. Her team braced for disaster. But behind closed doors in the cool quiet of her office, she had already summoned her most trusted advisors. There would be no panic, only planning. It was a war. Council assembled in secrecy, focused on a singular mission, not merely to survive, but to seize back the narrative. Questions swirled through every newsroom, every living room, every comment thread. What weapon do you use when your name is being shredded in public and your integrity reduced to a slogan for your enemies? Bondi's answer was waiting just below the surface as the deep Washington night press in the Department of Justice building stood hushed, and looming outside the streets were calm under the glare of street lamps. But inside the top-floor conference room, the crisis churned every table covered in files, laptops, coffee, stained notepads. Bondi stood at the head, her posture straight and commanding, fatigue etched around her eyes, yet her voice cut through with icy precision. We do not fight fire with emotion. We fight with evidence. Her eyes swept across her deputy attorney general, two senior legal strategists, and her iron-willed communications chief, each hanging on her words. She made it clear if they gave even a breath of speculation, the mob would have fresh fuel. So they would deal only in fact. A heavy silence settled before Mark, her deputy, pushed a printout across the table. You have to see this. The email header screamed confidential DOJ evidence attached. Inside were cryptic allegations, spreadsheets tracing suspicious donations through shell companies tied to a major Democratic senator. Exactly the type of explosive material that could shift everything. Mark's face was tense. If it's real, this is a bomb. Bondi's communications director warned it could also be a trap. They all knew how easily digital forgeries could be spun into a new scandal. Bondi nodded. Already working 2 steps ahead, she ordered their tech expert to trace every data point down to its origin, treat nothing as real until it was verified. Metadata, transaction histories, comparisons against known breaches from the past half year. If even one digit was wrong, they would bury it. If it proved authentic, they would wield it like a blade. For a fleeting moment, hope sparked through the room, but Bondi refused to let it distort their discipline. She told them the truth alone was worthless. If it came from dirty hands, they had to be cleaner than anyone else. No leaks, no half-measured talking points, no desperate flailing. They would wait until every shred of data was rock solid, and then strike, not with outrage, but with undeniable proof. The room came alive with purpose. Mark organized coordination with internal affairs. Vanessa, the communications chief, set up a rigid line-by-line review. The legal team began cross-checking every name on the documents against ongoing DOJ probes. Outside, the city fell deeper into sleep, but inside the tempo only accelerated. Bondi watched them with a cold clarity. She knew what her enemies wanted: to melt down a headline, a viral moment of her cracking under pressure. Her father's old words ran through her mind in Washington. They come for you when you least expect it. The only armor you have is the truth in your discipline. She gripped that memory like a talisman. Hours later, the digital analyst returned breathless. We have a hit. Initial scans aligned with known whistleblower disclosures, plus overlapping transactions tied to a Maryland front company already under IRS investigation. The team froze. Bondi stayed composed, instruct them to keep digging. She wanted independent outside verification. Before dawn, as the team pressed on gaming out responses, if the documents were legitimate, this could reveal corruption far deeper than any televised smear. If they were fabricated, even whispering them could destroy her. Finally, at 4 a.m, a forensic accountant not linked to the DOJ confirmed 3 wire transfers matching the leaked spreadsheet in amount, timing, and recipients. The implications were immense, but Bondi remained ice calm. We are not politicians tonight. We are prosecutors. The law is our language. The truth is our shield. She fixed her team with a hard stare. This is not about clear my name. It is about resetting the balance. They wanted a spectacle. They are going to get reckoning by sunrise. She ordered them to trace every link between the shell companies and the Capitol. She wanted names, dates, no immunity for anyone. The team surged out, re-energized somewhere between the final keystrokes and the gray break of dawn. The question lingered: was the truth enough to protect a single woman in a city engineer to destroy her? Across town, Cory Booker's office had transformed overnight into a bunker. Hallways thick with tension, reporters camped at the door, ready to pounce, each question barbed, each headline a fresh dagger. Booker's phone lit up with endless alerts. His mind swirled with half-formed fears. His chief aide, Lisa, entered pale and stiff. There's a reporter from the Chronicle. She has documents tying you to 3 nonprofits. She wants to know why donations from the Renaissance Group weren't disclosed. Booker swallowed hard, told her to say they'd review everything. But even he could see Lisa doubted that would hold. He passed through the hallways, intercepted by journalists, each thrusting out microphones wanting comment on Justice Action Trust. He kept walking past aides, past marble columns, toward his legal counsel, who grimly laid out the reality. Most of the documents looked authentic. If more evidence came, the optics would be catastrophic. Booker's head spun. How did these files get out? They weren't even on email. Someone close had to leak it back in his office. Paranoia clawed at him. Every staffer a potential traitor. His phone rang, and Unknown number, when he answered a voice cloaked by distortion, cut straight to the bone. Senator, this isn't personal, pick the wrong side. And this is what happens, distance yourself from Wyden. If you want to stop the call, ended, leaving Booker rattled moments later. Lisa, return her voice, trembling. Bondi's team just reached out, they have proof against Wyden. And others, this is bigger than you thought. Booker realized with a sickening drop that he was no longer a hunter, he was prey. And the next moves were out of his hands. At that same moment, deep in the DOJ, Bondi received confirmation the data was real. The spiderweb of shell companies, whistleblower corroborations, forensic trails, all intact. It was time to move the Grand Hall of the Department of Justice, seethed with near violent anticipation. Reporters, packed in lights, blazed, microphones crowded the podium. This was not just a press conference, it was an arena for a political death match. At precisely 11, Bondi appeared, her charcoal suit razor sharp, her expression a perfect mass of composure, flanked by senior counsel. She took her place as a cart stacked with binders and a locked evidence box rolled, and reporters sucked in their breath, instinctively knowing the gravity had just shifted. Bondi's voice broke the charged silence, cool, even clinical, stating the DOJ's duty to present facts, not conjecture. Then she gave a nod, and her staff opened. The first binder pages were handed out to the front row, packed with wire transfers, contracts, and ledgers, all documenting a network of shadow companies connected to Wyden and Booker, each item traced with meticulous clarity, names, dates, check numbers, each highlighted in glaring red. The reporter's shock rippled through the hall. Bondi projected a contract onto the giant screen, linking a Wyden family trust to a nonprofit under active investigation. Her voice cut sharp. Corruption is not a headline, it is a network built over years, relying on silence, enabled by cowardice. Questions exploded around her, demanding to know if she was accusing sitting senators of criminal conspiracy. If the FBI had these files when she first knew. Bondi raised her hand for silence. These documents speak for themselves as evidence is already referred to federal authorities. This office will not tolerate corruption at any level, regardless of party. Within minutes, USB drives loaded with supporting files were being snatched up. Reporters live tweeted images, legal memos, summary sheets, social feeds erupted. Even the most jaded commentators admitted this was no smokescreen. This was fire, real fire. And as it spread, Pam Bondi stood steady at the center of the storm, knowing the reckoning had only just begun.